Welcome to the show. This is Successful as Fuck, the live show. I'm your host, Riah Gonzalez. I am here with the grandiose and amazing Alicia Lozano of The Motivated Co. And we're going to talk success, doing it with less, doing it with more potency, changing your mind on what success looks like. And Alicia's about it, and I'm about her. So welcome, Alicia, to the show.
Thank you. I'm about you.
I know. Like, full disclosure, we are biz besties, and I just love her outlook on life and her zest. If you are not on her email list, don't do yourself wrong. Get on it. Welcome,
Walking, dropping it.
And tell us a little bit about yourself and how you serve people.
Yeah, so Alicia Lozano, the owner and founder of The Motivated Co., which is an operations consulting and implementation company. I serve people in a few ways. One way is through a business operations audit, and we get deep into your customer journey and defining what you want your customer journey to look like. The other way is through my template shop. And I have a lot of ideas for what that's going to be, but currently it's a workflow template shop that has relationship management, like a CRM, a robust CRM, something that you can customize in there to track your leads and all of those great things, your clients, your connections, and then a social media hub that has built-in SOPs, and both trackers are ready to delegate and have SOPs there. So I'm really excited about those as well. So currently that is, that is the two ways that I am serving people. More to come in the new year. I feel like that was like the ending though.
No, that's amazing. And I think there's so many, hey Queenie, there's so many ways that this serves people. And even if you're not thinking, like maybe you're not a traditional entrepreneur, you need to think about this in a couple different ways. One is a CRM is a customer relationship management system. And it's a way that you track your interactions with people along with all of their like contact information in one place. I myself am a CRM nerd, and I have my CRM based off of something Alicia built for me. And I'm actually building from that a personal CRM. So this would be like next level address book, folks. Like, you can use Alicia's templates to put all of your addresses in one place, all of the contact number for your friends and family and people that you love or want to interact with in one place. And then you can set reminders for yourself. Like, hey, this is so-and-so's birthday. Don't forget to give them a text. You can set reminders of like, this was the last time I reached out to Aunt so-and-so. Maybe in like 4 months, I should send her it like a message or a card. Like there's a lot of ways that these types of things apply to professionals in corporate, to regular people. And so we use these things both for ourselves personally and professionally. But Alicia is like the brain behind so many things. And I'm like so tempted to do the hair club for men thing where I'm not just the president, but I'm also a client. Like, I'm not the hair club for men. I'm also a client.
What is the hair club for men?
Oh my God, you're maybe not old enough, but it used to be a commercial where this guy, it was like for people who had hair loss.
Okay.
And the guy would, like, the president was like the guy doing the commercial, and his tagline was, I'm not just the president, I'm also a client. Like, it's not yeah. So that's why I said, like, I'm not just a fan of Alicia, but I'm also a client. Like, she's like really redo things and like really look at my business and look at things from a whole different perspective. And Queenie, who's on with us here, she is a podcaster. She's very involved in like the book community, people who are like authors and freelancers. I mean, this has like a greater application because the heart of it is really what the heart of what we're talking about is connection to other people in a very authentic way and being successful in that connection to other people and measuring that in different ways. So maybe you're geeky and nerdy like me, and you're like, hey, I really want to connect with as many people as possible, but I can't remember to do it all on my own. And so I'm going to use something like what Alicia has. And then maybe you are like a podcaster and you're like, hey, I want to remember to follow up with that person, or they had a cool idea. I want to connect them to somebody else. Like there's just so many ways that could work. So
for sure.
yeah.
For sure. Yeah. It's overrated. And I think everyone wants to keep up with other people and they have the best intentions, but it is hard for anybody, especially like anybody who's busy. It could be a busy mom, like back to your point, like it doesn't always apply to just entrepreneurship or people in business. Like it can apply to someone just having a full plate that wants to genuinely keep up with people and can't remember all the little details, or what grandma's favorite cake is, right? Like those types of things. Like it's it's life organization in a nutshell. Yeah.
So well, tell us a little bit. Let's like go backwards a little bit to maybe baby Alicia in baby adulthood. Tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are today and what that looked like in terms of what was success for you back then. Like, what did you feel like would be the most, like the best accomplishment? And how has that, I was saying when we were in the green room that even in the time that I've known Alicia, both of us have really revamped and rethought of what that looks like for us right now. And so, tell us about the new developments that have happened in your business and personal life that are really redefining what success looks like for you right now.
Got it. So yeah, little Alicia was always a dreamer. Always like someone, and I think like this goes like a little deep into when I went to grade school. I went to Catholic school, and I'm pretty sure I was like on a scholarship or something. And so all of the girls that I went to school with were white. You can tell that I'm brown, right? And it's relevant because I grew up with developing a chip on my shoulder that was like I always had to like prove myself, and I always felt less than, and that has really influenced the term success for me because I always felt like I was the underdog, right? And so because of that, it shaped my behaviors and influenced my actions as I got older, and how I chose to get into like different things. So I was always a dreamer, always felt like just beyond, the reach, there was something like bigger and greater for me that I could be doing. And I never let that go, even till now. And so in high school, I strive to be the best. I strive to be good in cheerleading and like all of those things. In college, minus my freshman year, I strive to do good in school and like all those kinds of things as well. And then as I got into professional career, I started out as a branch teller as one of my more like serious jobs, and worked my way up to a branch bank manager and like managing that, and then also funny, before that step was a kind of like a regional manager just for the tellers, but then I became the branch manager of one branch. So that had always, achieving those types of things, I think like anyone else, had always meant that I was successful until I hit a point that I didn't feel like I wanted to feel. And so because I was a dreamer and I was always like into being a ham, I wanted to be a ham professionally, and I wanted to dance and act. So around 2008, I left my corporate job and went out to California with my last paycheck, and just said, if I'm going to try to like make it, and I don't know what even make it means. Like, I think the act of just going out there, I felt super proud just to like say I did something and say that I like went for it. And that, where I'm getting at is, there was a moment when I was out there and I booked a music video where I was a feature, which if you're not familiar with the film industry, The feature is kind of like, it's always like that, like video vixen girl, right? Like, and like that's, you're featured on that, or one or two people. And in this video, I was a feature, and I didn't have an agent. I didn't have, I was like bigger, like I wasn't at my biggest, like weight wise, but I was definitely at that time in 2008, not what you saw on TV, like in terms of like music videos and that kind of stuff, right? And so I found this role that was like this underdog role. I played this like underdog of like being this Sean Kingston, who used to sing Beautiful Girl. He is my like love interest, or I'm interested in him, and he's trying to go after this like the hot girl, right? And I'm not the hot, I don't play the hot girl. But I found myself in this music video, like my dream, where if you come from where I came from and you have this feeling about yourself that you're not like, you know, you're not at equals with people, and then you come in and you're like doing this thing that you've always wanted to do, and you were picked out of this like entire group of people that had agents, like that does something to your soul. And I think that was the moment, a really big defining moment in terms of like success, because I realized that I didn't just have to try to catch up to people. I could be whatever the fuck I wanted to be. Like, I don't care what it is. Like, I don't like, and it was almost to this point of like delusion, right? Like, which I actually, when I talk about this concept I have about zero to anything, I talk about this concept of being delusionary before you can really design that belief in yourself. But I just had this like this thing that I was like, I can do literally whatever the hell I want, because I've proven it to myself that this chunky girl like from the hood could be in a music video, and if I wanted to, I could do it again and again and again. And yeah, so that happened. And then fast forward through corporate and coming back and trying to, as we do the ups and downs of life, right? Happen, you get streamlined or funneled into the way of doing things again for whatever reason. And yeah, it took me a long time to, when I came back from California, to find my footing again, to then say, I knew I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, like let me actually do this. And I think the belief was always there. It's just the clarity that was missing, because you just don't like quit your job without like really knowing like what business you're going to run, or like, so it took a little bit to get there. But yeah, once I did, and once I found like this like intersection of like the skills that I was good at and like what the market needed, I was able to leave. And I think a pivotal moment about that specifically is that's different from a lot of people that tell this story, is that a lot of people like chase their passion and they quit their job because they have this like passion for whatever they're doing. And that's awesome. But my story was different. It was, I like operations was not I didn't have my why. It was not a passion. Like building, I got hired to build the SOPs, and I just had this like energetic shift in this knowing that this was the right business at the right time. And so I just was like, I'm going to take the leap. And I want to say that because I think that what we get fed is that follow your passion and the money will come. Yes. And it's like, not for everyone. That could be the story for people, certain people, and every story is unique. But for me, it wasn't like I was screaming SOPs at the top of the mountain. And so anyway, I say that to point that out. Like, I didn't chase my passion. I chased something that I was good at. And then I just kind of had this strong, like physical intuition that this was the right thing to do. And then I made the leap.
I love that. You know what's so funny about that too is I also ascribe to that, because I think if you well, number one, there's not always a market for what your passion is. So you could be the most passionate person on the planet, but like if you're passionate about, like right now I'm super into epoxy resin crafts, like that's amazing. But I also see hundreds of people on social media saying, what's wrong? I went to a farmer's market and I made all this stuff and 2 people bought something and now I'm out all this money. And that's because, yes, they're good at it. And yes, they're passionate about it, but not everybody wants what they're offering. If you had asked me 10 years ago if I would own a virtual assistant matchmaking company, I would laugh in your face. Like, it's something that built over time, and I was able to take my talents and my gifts and it's something that literally was forced on me. Like, somebody was like, here's my money, you're gonna do this thing. And I was and then it went great. And she told everybody, and then everyone's hiring me for a service I don't provide. And it was like this like weird thing for me, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and I don't even know if this is what I'm gonna be doing in 6 months. I don't know if this is what I'm gonna be doing in 3 months. And you know what? I don't fucking care, because the point is that you follow what your heart is. I'm working through the exercises in Find Your Why, which is like the next step after Start Your Why with Simon Sinek. And like, when you find what your heart is, what you're made of, like what is your special gifting, that can manifest itself in so many different ways.
100%.
Yeah. You don't even know. Like, 100%. You don't even know, because you're bringing all these experiences. Like, I mean, I firmly believe that flipping burgers and slinging fries at 14 years old brought a work ethic that is here with me at 44 years old. And that doesn't, you know, you wouldn't necessarily put that on your resume, but like, shout out to Small Fries in Falls City, Washington. But like, right. But like, I think that what you're saying is so true. It's like, yes, there's passion. Yes, there's desire and purpose, but it actually has nothing to do with what you're doing. It has to do with who are you? Do you have a strong sense of who you are? Because if you do, and you can lock into whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing, and there's a need for it, you unlock the ability to be who you are. Which, if you are not following Alicia on social media, she is fucking hilarious. Like, she does dance on social media. She does like play the music that she loves. Like what is it? Pop lock and
Pop lock and drop it framework for business.
Right? Like, that's the name of her service. Like, I mean, why would you not love that? And you love it because it's authentic. It's like, you're being vulnerable, right? Like, you're saying, like, this is who I am, and if you don't like it, deuces. You know what I mean? Like, move along, little doggy. I'm gonna like just be me and rock me, and it's gonna draw people in to who you are. And that's one of the keys of unlocking your success, is like, and we talk about that in the book too, is like the authenticity and the ability to be rejected and to like have people not like who you are and not resonate with who you are. That is the most powerful tool in your tool belt, because the how and like the what of what you're doing is really not important. That's like an algorithm and a metric of like, what are your skills, experience, and what's the market need. And people are going to gravitate toward you in friendships, in personal relationships, in networking, in, you know, experiences as you move forward, the more you allow the real you to show, even if that's not great. You know what I mean? Like, I hide when I don't feel good. Like, and by I don't feel good, I mean, I'm fucking depressed. You know what I mean? Like, I can't like put on a smiley face. I can't pop, lock, and drop it today, because all I want to do is drop it into my bed with the fuzzy covers. You know what I mean? Like, but there are people out there who need to see that somebody who feels that way on a frequent basis can show up, let the mask drop, and say, like, I got some shit done today.
Yeah.
Or I didn't.
One thing. Yay. Yeah.
Or I didn't. Like, you know what I mean? And that was the one thing that I said, I'm actively choosing myself today.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think,
I think that's the hard part.
Yeah.
And it's hard, I think, for a lot of reasons, but I think even more recently, when I've started to build relationships with people who I saw as like elevated, right? And I am looking at their consistency. I'm looking at their success. And I just thought to myself recently, like, even just the act of looking at someone else's journey is taking away from where I'm at and the journey that I'm at. And I think that it's just so hard to always just come back to yourself and remind yourself that if going to the bathroom was all that you could do, and I know that we hear this, but I don't think that we internalize it. Like if going to the bathroom is all you can do, that it is gonna be okay, and it's okay for where you're at, and it doesn't matter. Like, and again, I think that we hear that same message over and over, but it takes a while for that to really get ingrained in you, for you to have that self forgiveness to say, just because this person's successful or that person looks this way or that person is consistent and they're always there no matter what, you know, like even to the point where if you do see somebody that's saying, hey y'all, I'm showing up and having a bad day, even having that as a measurement, if that's not something that you can do or have the capacity to do, still be okay with that. And I think that that's hard it's just so hard to achieve. And one thing in terms of success that I feel like it's just this realization, almost a sadness, that we have to realize that life isn't always supposed to be good. And if we continue to try and achieve that level of that feeling of like joy all across the board at all time, that we're always going to be depressed. We're always going to feel like, and it's like, we just gotta like feel the lows, and like, it's gonna suck. And we can do the best we can in terms of like the help that we get and like the tools that we have to cope. But sometimes, and I would argue that a lot of the time, it's going to hurt and it's going to feel not good. And I think that I'm recognizing that my life is, I got to hang on to the joys.
Yes.
You know, because whatever I'm going through, similar to you, like whether it's business or personal or whatever, like I don't always feel the best. And I'm really sad about that. But it's like I have to just honor, right, that I am in this, whatever you want to call it, I'm in this space and it's okay. And there will be, because there was a period in time where it was mostly good days, right? And so it's just one of those things. I think of this like, maybe it's part of like self-accepting. I don't know. I'm not like a therapist. But like it's part of like self-accepting or something, that in forgiveness, that you just have to say like, this is who I am right now.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's a growth thing or a I'm fallen, or I don't know what it is. I don't know if you saw the it was so marvelous, but there's this thing going on like TikTok or on the internet of this guy that it's the steps, and he's like falling back and bouncing back up to these steps. Have you seen that?
Ooh, no.
So it's like a trampoline, and then there's like these steps that he's landing on. So imagine like steps, and then imagine a trampoline on the side of the steps, and he's like falling. And anyway, it's a visual of like, sometimes you jump to this step and then you jump to this step and then you jump to this step right before the peak, and then you're down to this step, and then you bounce to this step, and then you get to the peak and you make it, and then you fall and you fall and you fall and you fall, and then you jump back up to the peak, and then you fall down 2 steps. And that's just how it's gonna be, y'all. Period.
Right.
Like let me co-sign that. That's how it's gonna be. I think for me, I've held on to this idea of like, no, like live your best life. Like, let's do this and feel good all the time. And I'm like, you know what?
That is our best life. We're moving.
If that works for some people and that's what they're showing and that's their life, that's awesome. But that's not the standard that I'm gonna hold myself to.
Right.
Period.
Right. I know, it's so funny because like for me, I don't think I'm attached to monetary success or things like that, because it doesn't mean like I don't know how to describe this. It doesn't mean like wealth doesn't equal success to me. However, Like if I have to present my numbers or my bank account or like whatever to somebody, there's this inherent shame about decisions I've made or things that have happened, or like the way that my business looks like right now, or my personal finances or whatever, in comparison to other people in similar situations. And so there's this tendency to want to hide that. And because I look happy, and because I'm still here 4 years later, and because I have people that work for me. And you know, like the reality is I'm bouncing back on a trampoline and I'm up, and then I'm bouncing back on a trampoline and I'm down, and like I'm still here, but I might not be in like a year or 3 years or whatever. And I had this like measurement, like my measurement when I went into business for myself was, the statistic is that that most businesses fail between 3 and 5 years. So I told myself, if I make it to 5 years, I'm going to feel like I was a successful entrepreneur. And then after that, I'm going to make the decision of whether or not I want to continue or not. And now here I am. November 1st is my like official business anniversary, you know, and
5 years?
4
4 years. Okay.
So, but I mean, like still statistically, whatever, you know, and I'm like, is it what I thought it was going to be? I mean, like year 2 was like friggin' balls to the wall, like, you know, more than 6 figures, like everything was like hunky dory, but it was actually like horrible. Like it was not success for me. It felt awful. Like it did not feel good, because what it took to make that took like my soul. Like it really did not that I was doing anything unethical, just like the work that I was doing, the way that I was working did not resonate with who I am and my energy flow, and like how I want to show up for people. And the people I was working for, fuck that shit. Like I just like I didn't, those are not clients I want to have. I mean, I had like a handful of beautiful, wonderful clients, but I also had a handful of awful people. And that year, I mean, I had I had 2 VAs stolen from me. I had a client stolen from me from one of my VAs. I had like all this stuff happening, but here I am still in business. And the point is like, no matter how we say we're going to show up and what we think success is, you have to feel it on the inside. And also you have to declare it for yourself. And you have to recognize that not every second of every day of that existence is going to feel hunky dory. Like it's going to feel awful some days, because the way you find out you don't want to work with those clients is by having those clients. The way you find out that you don't like to have those types of friends is by having those friends or seeing that type of thing. And so like you have to experience some of these things to say, actually, that's a boundary for me. Like that's horrible for my psyche. That's horrible for my lifestyle. And that was horrible. Like that shouldn't have happened to me. Like that's awful. Like I don't like that. And that's not acceptable. And I'm going to show up in a different way. And so I think that this idea is just like really beautiful in the sense that there's possibility. Like I love that you like ran away to Hollywood and like had all this amazing stuff. And then I've just like the honor of like watching this unfold and like seeing you, like you are like business owner goals, dude, like hashtag for real. Like I love the amount of energy and I know like behind the scenes, you're just a normal person. Like I love that it's real. Like this is not somebody being like, you want to make 10K a month? Come on over to my community and I'll show you how to do it. Because I'm awesome and I deal with millionaires and I'm having the best life ever. Because you're like, yesterday you drank yourself to sleep. Like whatever. So yeah, I mean, talk to me a little bit more about like the progression in the last year, because now you are speaking on Zero to Anything. What is Zero to Anything and how's that shown up for you?
Yeah, so the progression of this year has been interesting. So it's my first year out of corporate, I completed my first year out of corporate in July, I want to say. Yeah, July 17th. I should always like remember that. Or
I know.
July 16th. I actually missed my anniversary. I have to go back. I actually missed my anniversary by one day. I felt so dumb. I'm like, this is the most important anniversary ever, and I missed it. But anyway, so I think that one thing that has really helped me this year is letting go of like, or it's not failing fast. I wish I could put a name on it. Let me think. Like it's almost like learning from other people's mistake and not allowing myself to fall into some pitfalls that some of business owners had been in for years before they're getting out. Like I had the privilege of seeing business owners and knowing business owners and learning from business owners that talked about being burnt out, talked about what that felt like and what the signs were, talked about offer alignment to your soul, talked about just different things like that or finding the right clients, like that kind of stuff that I think keeps business owners in that space of like unhappiness for a long time. And so what I decided to do is I cut my hours drastically. So I was overworking. My business wasn't hitting the numbers that I wanted it to hit. And I had this, I call her a coach, but she's really a fairy called Dr. Julia. I got like connected with her in some way. And she threw a workshop. And it was in that workshop that she wasn't necessarily pushing like a 4-hour workday specifically, but she was pushing like being in flow. That's like, she's like a flow educator and coach, and like the actual science of flow, of how you put yourself in flow, and has like a PhD in that. And so she talked about like this idea of like doing less and like just being in flow. And it was at that moment that I was like, if the plane is going down, then I'm going to throw the best fucking party that anybody has ever seen, heard, or felt like. And that was my mentality at first. It was like, I'm going to work 4 hours a day instead of working 14. And I'm just going to do it, period. And so like literally from one day to the next, I was like, I don't do this. I work 4 hours a day, and everything had to be fit into that 4 hours. And so that was so helpful because it really helped me. One, it's so funny. We all want time, but I had no idea what to do with my extra time. I was like, what do I even like? What am I going to do? Am I just going to like what? I binged Gossip Girl, which is awesome. But yeah, so I had to get really clear. I actually closed a $5,000 deal during that point on a proposal that was on a Word document. Unheard of for me. Okay. So like I'm the person that goes back, crafts the perfect proposal, make sure that it looks beautiful, make sure that I've covered all my bases, make sure I've added my add-ons and all these extra opportunities to upsell and downsell and all of these things. And I was like, no, I only have an hour to get this done. Here's some bullet points. Here's the price. Here you go. And I closed the deal, and I was like, what the hell? And that was just like, I don't think that it was about the document. I don't think anything, but I think it was about you honoring that like flow. And so that was a big change, and also how I relate to success. And it's also a practice that when I launched my template shop this year, I got out of that. I worked more than 4 hours, and I went back to my old habits. And I felt ashamed actually for a long time, because people would be like, are you working 4 hours? And I'm like, like I was like the 4-hour girl for like months. And then like, but it's also back to that, like, doesn't matter what other people are thinking or saying. Like, I wanted to launch this thing. I made a decision to work more, and I did. Now I just have the awareness of like, let me not let this continue and be the norm. This is only okay. And I could have spread it out, and there was a reason why I didn't, and I got it done faster. But anyway, I don't even know
Dude, that's the point, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's the point. Is like, well, number one, it's exactly what I was saying too. Like, this is what I'm doing right now. This feels like success right now. And maybe that changes, but the heart is there, right? Like, your heart in that moment was not the 4-hour workday. Your heart was like, I'm so passionate about this thing that I'm setting up for my future so that I can still serve people in this way, but it's on like, I'm going to put all this energy in right now, because then it's rinse and repeat. Like, I don't have to do that later, because these are things that maybe I tweak every once in a while, but I've put all this energy into. So that's what was success in that moment.
100%.
There's no like shame that you were the 4-hour girl for a while, and then you're like, ooh, I have this project and I love it because it's a contained period of time. And then you decide when the container ends, and then you do what feels good for you next. And that's what I think we, myself included, can get caught up in, is like, we wrap ourselves in these roles and identities, and that becomes who we are. And so when we want to break free from that, we feel like we cannot. And
we don't want to be contradicting.
Yes. Or confuse people, but fuck people.
Yeah.
Fuck them. It's my life. I'm confused myself. Let me figure it out myself.
Yeah, for sure.
Along for the ride. You know what I mean? Like, but if it, like, at the point that it no longer feels good, that's when you have to say, like, okay, I'm off track from what, and maybe you haven't done the work to figure out what is your why. And when we say what is your why, we're not saying your passion, your purpose, like whatever. Like, what is the thing when you strip away all of these roles, all of these things? Who are you? Like, what is important to you? What is the thing that you have to give? And I feel like it's very aligned with purpose, but it's not exactly purpose, because purpose for us, we often attach to an action. Take the action off. What's underneath? You know what I mean? Like, what's the heart? And it's something that for me, I've been like, okay, so I used to always say, and I do think this is true, that like my purpose or like my why is connection. I'm a connector. Like, I love that shit, like all day long. I could do that in so many different roles, right? And I'm like, why? Why is it connection? And it's because I want to belong. I want to belong. I want other people to feel like they belong. If you don't feel like you belong, I always say this, like, if you need a shoulder to cry on, or if you don't have a friend, like, legit DM me. I answer my own DMs. If you need, like, if I go through Instagram comments of things, and if somebody's like, they have like a hint of a negativity or a bad feeling, I will DM that person. Like, or if they say like, I've been struggling with COVID, I'll be like, hey, I saw on so-and-so's thing, like, how are you feeling today? Like, that's who I am, because I want them to belong. Okay. But then what's underneath that? Like, why do I want to belong? And this is this constant, like, deeper and deeper, deeper. Those don't have anything to do with being an entrepreneur, a mom, a wife, having 20 plus years of healthcare administration experience, like being a fucking badass, like, eating cereal out of a bag. I don't know, like, it doesn't have anything to do with any of these other things, but it's like, where's the heart? And if you are out of alignment with that heart, you're not going to feel successful. So if you are feeling like off track, you have to find yourself back to the heart, and then just edge yourself back towards that, because maybe you can't bounce back up from the trampoline. There's so many people, for socioeconomic reasons. I mean, like, generational poverty, like how to get out of generational poverty. Like, there's so many reasons why people are in certain situations of privilege or not privilege or whatever it might be. But what can you do? What can you do to step this tiny little step towards the heart of what you're doing? You know what I mean? Like, and there's always like something, right? There's something you can do that's within your power. And if you don't feel like there's something, then you need to find someone like Alicia, that maybe you don't reach out to Alicia because that's not your jam, but you just like follow her energy, or like somebody that just makes you feel a little happy inside. That's Mel Robbins for me is that way. Like, cause I just really resonate with what she's so friggin' real. The way she talks to people, and that like, I'm like, okay, if someone like that is so famous and like motivates all these people, like I'm like her, like legit, like our personality, I'm her love child. Okay. Like I am her love child. She just doesn't even know it because it was a natural birth and we're only like, 10 years apart. Like, so that's the thing is like I see you just like aligning and getting closer and closer and closer to what it is that's your heart. And then telling people like, hey, it's fucking possible. Like what you thought is impossible, get delusional, folks, and that you don't have to drop shrooms to do this. Like let yourself get like
microdosing is approved.
Like no judgment. I haven't tried it yet, so
Me either. But I do want to try microdosing and ayahuasca, I think is what it's called.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh my god. So
Allison
out there.
What's her last name? Cross.
Oh yeah. Oh,
she's like
one of the only people
that like go-to person for that. We'll link her shit too. She's amazing. But talk to us about like what, and we'll get like closer to like wrapping this. But what I really want to hear is like, tell us more about zero to anything. What are some steps that people can take away from this talk that they can start moving in that direction? And then like, how can they follow this movement and get involved with what you're spreading in terms of this mission?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I just want to take a moment because I feel like this, you can tell that is close to my heart. So I just want to like soak in that moment of like bringing this topic up and having the opportunity to even talk about it. But zero to anything is the belief that you can go from zero to anything that you want in your life. And I feel it's funny that you asked about the steps because I hadn't thought about that in a while. And I was in New York last week, and I was at this workshop, and she had us working on our signature talks. And I know that I don't know if it's going to be called zero to anything, but this concept and message was weaved in, and I was having to break that down. So it may not be perfect, but off the top of my head, like some things that I feel people can take is like step one for me was getting delusional and building belief that you can actually do it. Step two for me was making the decision to just do it. And when I talk about decision, I use this analogy of a mother and her child. If you are a mother, you're going to understand this to your core. When you're in the car with your child and your child is little and they need the car seat, it sucks lugging that thing in the car seat, out of the car, whatever you do, right? But never in your life are you going to forget to lock your child into that car seat, because I believe that you've made a decision to keep your child safe. And that's like with anything else. Once you decide that you're going to insert whatever, go from zero to insert whatever, once you decide, there is nothing around you, an earthquake, a tornado, a pandemic, like nothing on this earth is going to prevent you from reaching that goal. Similar to like, even if somebody bumped into your car on the way of you buckling your child in, when you get up to leave again, you are not going to forget to you're not going to forget. You just aren't. And I believe, because that's just a deep belief a deep decision that you made, that you have to keep your child safe. So keep your dream safe.
Yeah.
And so those are a couple of things that definitely come to mind. And I think like the third kind of like, it's maybe not in steps, but the third thing is getting comfortable with the low. And just knowing that this whole concept of zero to anything, this is a new territory because you're coming from zero to anything. So you don't know what's going to come. You don't know, like, and so you have to just get comfortable that you might hit a few dead ends on the way. You may want to change your mind and say, I no longer want to go from zero to professional speaker. I want to go from zero to professional dancer, like, and that's okay. And maybe you come back if you're multi-passionate, like me, you want to go zero to like 50 million things at once, and you want to do it like by tomorrow at like noon, so then you can go and talk about it, like, totally. So just knowing that you have to get comfortable with the low, because you're growing. There's something happening in the deep lows that is transformative if you just sit with it. And I think that it's going to create clarity for you one way or another to influence and help you make the decision next. And then lastly, I'll say, like, whatever it is, break that down to the smallest action that you can, like, break it down into. Like, even if it's like rearranging, changing the color of your office. Like, I know that's something silly, but even if it's something like that, or if it's just like cleaning up your space, or if it's going out for a walk, but you want to be a runner, like if it's just like committing to, I'm going to walk for 2 minutes tops or 30 seconds, like whatever it is, it's really those little sparks. And this is what people have to remember and figure out, like what their motivators are. But it's those little sparks of action that give you the rocket of motivation to get through a certain period. And then you got to find those little spark, that little action. And then it's like that rocket ship of like, okay, now I'm back on track, or now I'm motivated again, or now I'm like excited to keep going to actually achieve like the anything, whatever you want to be. So that's,
I love that. I love that. So tell us where we can find you. What platform are you on the most?
Yeah, so I'm mostly active on Facebook. So you can find me on under my name, Alicia Lozano, on Facebook. But I'm across all platforms on I am Alicia Lozano. And you can join Zero to Anything in 2 ways. You can join the Instagram handle. That's all I have secured. Please don't steal it. Right now. And it's called like Zero to Anything Media. It'll probably be changing, but yeah, so Zero to Anything Media, if you want to follow me there, and or joining the Zero to Anything newsletter, which is on my link tree on my socials. So that is where currently I'm just talking about life and stuff, and then eventually it'll turn into the brand that and sharing the message. But what you see now is a very, very messy action, and knowing that I have a message to share, but I'm not really sure on how it's going to happen. So
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for joining us today. And thank you guys for sticking around and hanging out with Alicia and I, talking about starting at zero and going to anything and becoming successful as fuck. If you've not purchased Successful as Fuck, it's on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. It's pretty much friggin' everywhere. We did hit international bestseller on Amazon. And as a little like side note, something Alicia said in the end of what she said is very aligned with the final chapter of this book.
Woo!
Yeah, so you'll have to read it to find out. Also, just a quick side note is that the hardback is coming out. I actually have the box of the hardbacks, the first editions, in my living room. Have not opened it because I'm weird and superstitious and it has to be the right moment. So probably today there'll be an unboxing. So thank you guys so much for joining us and for joining in this conversation. And we hope to have more of them. And follow Alicia. She's amazing. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.